I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Wyatt.
Here.
Engel. Here. Reister. Funds. Present. Lawson.
Here.
I have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, anything to remove? If not, a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Welcome, everybody. Leon, you would like to address the council?
Well, I would. I'll
Go
make it
ahead.
really brief. Since you have pictures worth 1,000 words, we'll start a couple of pictures, you pass them on, and this way they can dwell in front of the mayor's face for a while. I don't know, I presume the altercation involving a baseball bat
Yes, it did. It
that
was on
took
that
place
property.
up in our community, took place in the property up right on the corner,
Yep.
36008.
Right.
Yeah, you know, I wonder, maybe if that property were cleaned up some and made a little more presentable, if maybe it would clean up the behavior in that lot, probably would. And you see a picture there of a building on that lot. You only see that when you're leaving the city.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see it when you come in.
Right.
You don't see it when you go on east onto 20. You can see it when you come west and don't get off the highway.
Yep.
So it's kind of a hard place to see.
Yep.
There is a little blue house up there. I understand that there's a 7-year-old boy is one of the people that lives there. And this barn sure looks like a nuisance to me to have a 7-year-old living in a place like that. So I want to know, what's the city doing? What's the status of what action can the city take to get that barn torn down? It's been dilapidated and holes in it for years now.
We sent them, Jack had brought it up a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And had the building inspector send in a notification of dilapidation, please send us a plan on what you're gonna do. We heard nothing back, we did not pursue it. I think with the altercation that occurred there, I'm gonna visit with Chief Banks, and we'll check with the city attorney and see exactly what we can do, whether it's condemnation of it or destruction, or what we can do because of the fact of that very serious issue that came in up there. It gives us more grounds to pursue it.
Yeah, yeah. Now,
And
it's
we'll
just
work at it.
a real eyesore, and people looking at new property in there,
Right.
come right down, what is it, Fast Lane or Ryder Road, I forget which it is. But you look straight at that as you drive out of that new development, so would be appreciated if something can be done.
Thanks, Leon. Committee reports. Matt, Public Works.
Yes, we had a longer meeting than we like. Mark was there. No, it wasn't Mark's fault.
It was Jake's.
It's also,
Way to go, Jake.
it's also my first meeting as the official chair, which I'd rather have Scott Stabell back, but whatever. So we went through several items. There was an update given on the ball field dugouts. There was some misunderstanding about what the bids, both bids had expired. And the bids, Parks and Rec thought was for 8 dugouts, meaning 2 dugouts per 4 ball fields. It was actually only for 4. And so it was way overpriced, so they're back to looking for a new bid or kind of a better price before we move forward with that. Playground equipment installation was discussed. Cost to install is gonna be about $9,000, and Jake's gonna discuss the base material and just kind of see what that is, so we'll get an update on that next time. We received a letter from a resident, I don't see her here tonight, who was making a recommendation to the city that the Jessup Gym is a really popular outdoor gym over in Jessup that is used by some people who've been on the Ninja Show, and just kind of a place that people come to work out outdoors. It's like an adult jungle gym almost. And they are selling some of that, and there was one item for really, really cheap that we could have picked up, and this resident was recommending that we consider that. On further consideration, we don't have a place to put it that's flat. And we were just wondering how much use would it get, so we decided to go ahead and pass on that. Thelma Street reconstruction project was discussed. Mark was here to present a couple options, and we recommended the, what's it called, PCC?
Yes.
Concrete option over the asphalt option. There's just a slightly more, slightly higher expense to it, almost negligible, maybe not quite negligible. But when you look at the, what's gonna last longer and maintenance, it looks like that concrete option is probably the best. I think we're talking about that tonight, right?
Yep.
We also discussed 2 engineering agreements, and we're gonna go forward with another $10,000 agreement. We recommended that go to council. That goes to council, right? And the whole idea being, this is kind of a pay-as-you-go thing, as I understand it. And so we're not giving them $10,000 to retain them or anything, it's just we're approving $10,000 as we need, and we think that should last a year at least. Thelma Street, well, we're gonna talk about that in our
That'll be
mention.
the engineering group.
Yep. Dale Drive Storm Sewer was discussed. Jake, remind me what that was about.
Basically what it is, it's a flap, you insert in the pipe
That's right.
and it'll let water go out, but if the creek backs up, the flap closes and won't let the creek back up into the pipe. And we can keep pumping the storm sewer out of rainwater, but we won't be recirculating the creek water.
Yep. Just a common sense thing that's gonna kind of mitigate flooding
I
problems
was
over
gonna say,
there.
it should try to help some of those businesses that are
Yes.
located along there.
Unless it would come over the road. I mean,
Which it's gonna do.
I got we talked about a property owner, whose tenant was behind on garbage and stormwater bills by quite a big margin, and had racked up quite a few fees, and the landowner wasn't made aware of that until it had come to a pretty high level, and so the landowner was appealing to us to not put a lien on his property because he wasn't aware that the tenant wasn't paying that. So it's a very rare circumstance that we kind of got fixed and took care of. Talked about water and sewer rates, and we made a motion to pass that on to council. I told the committee on Wednesday, or whenever we meet, Wednesday, that it's 7 in the morning, so I mean, that's too early, I can't remember which day it is. I told the committee that I'm gonna have some questions about those water and sewer rates. We passed them on for consideration here at council, but we'll have some discussion here about that. Jeff, you got anything you wanna add?
Nope, you covered it.
I think that's it. Oh, the city shop feasibility, the shop where we keep all our equipment is in rough condition, and we decided not to do a feasibility study because we thought that'd just be a waste of money. Because there are just some things that we already know that a study would tell us. And so Jake and his folks are gonna talk to us about what options would be going forward, whether it's fixing up the current shop, finding a different location. And we don't really need a study to do that. They're gonna just do some pencil scratching and get back to us at the next meeting, so.
Chat with me about that.
Long meeting, a lot of items. Try not to let that happen again.
I'll give you one.
Any questions for Matt?
Yes.
Thanks, Matt. General government. Item A, discussion action to approve the third reading of ordinance 826, an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Hudson, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to animal protection and control.
Second, third, whatever.
Discussion? Roll call.
Engel. Aye. Bunce.
Aye.
Wyatt.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Reister.
5-0. Item B, discussion action to approve resolution 2569, a resolution setting a public hearing for fiscal year 21 maximum property tax dollars for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021, and this is just to set the public hearing for February 10th, and it's one of the new requirements that the legislature put through.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Engel.
Aye.
Reister.
Aye.
Bunce.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Wyatt.
Aye.
5-0. Item C, discussion action to approve resolution 2570, a resolution setting a public hearing regarding water and sewer rates. That'll be a public hearing on February 10th, and the proposed rate increases are 5% on water and 5% on sewer, which matches what water rates are increasing. So, motion to approve? Just
set a
just
public
approving the
Just
public
to
hearing,
set the public hearing.
setting public hearing for the 10th.
I moved it.
Second, or third, whatever. I'm late for everything today. Jeez.
Roll call.
Engel,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Wyatt,
Aye.
Reister,
Aye.
Bunce.
Aye.
5-0. Item D, discussion action to approve resolution 2571, a resolution for approval of supplemental professional service agreement number 13 for the Public Works Department, and this is the $10,000 cap for the next estimator to handle for the next year for general public works.
Moved.
Second,
Discussion? Roll call.
Reister.
Aye.
Wyatt,
aye.
Engel,
Aye.
Bunce.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
5-0. Oops, almost scratched one off.
E.
Item E, discussion action to approve resolution 2572, a resolution for approval of supplemental professional service agreement number 14 for the 2020 Thelma Street construction from Celeste Street to Artist Street design and construction-related services, and approve the concept of the Thelma Street reconstruction project. Total estimated cost inclusive of engineering fees is $288 at this point, obviously subject to
Yes.
bids.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
Just wanna make sure, we're gonna communicate to people in that neighborhood when the time comes. So let them know what the traffic patterns are and
Yep.
all that stuff.
Yep.
This is the
There's only
same,
one
is this,
option.
yeah. Um, Lost completely what I was talking about there.
There's one option.
So this is where we're talking about with the difference in the material as well, correct?
Right.
So, and this is very similar to what we just did with, what street is the other one that we did? Is that Artist that we did?
It would match up Artis's construction.
Thank you.
This is like just over one city block.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Does
Roll
those,
call.
both those intersections?
Yeah.
Engel. Aye. Bunce.
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Wyatt,
Aye.
Reister.
Aye.
5-0. Item F, discussion action to approve resolution 2573, resolution for approval of payment request number 1 regarding the Hudson US 63 Bike Trail Extension Project, Phase 2 project in the amount of $404,000 plus.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
What is left on that then after that?
That's about 50%.
It's about 50.
Yeah. Roll call.
Wyatt,
Aye.
Engel. Aye. Lawson.
Aye.
Bunce.
Aye.
Reister.
5-0. Item G, discussion action to approve resolution 2574, a resolution to approve the concept for the Pirate Drive completion. This is the extension past Upper Ridges 3.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. I didn't really see anything in the packet like specific to this. Did I miss it completely?
No, there's
Yeah,
not.
there's not. What I want to do is have conceptual approval by the council. We've talked about it sporadically or individually. This will still then be awaiting actual bid numbers coming in from the Upper Ridges developers, because they're gonna price it so that they get their streets put in, get me a special bid, a separate bid for also completion of Pirate. And then it will come to a dollar amount that we'll figure out, once we get those numbers. And we'll make sure that that will be able to be repaid through TIF through a reasonable period of time. So it'd be an internal loan.
Completion of Pirate to connect to somewhere or to not connect?
It would be only to the end of the Upper Ridges plat, so it would go past, Upper Ridges has got a U shape.
Yeah,
It'll go past the U shape to the end of the city limits, basically.
but it would not connect to, what is that, as in, what is that other?
No.
Yeah,
Cherokee.
it would not,
Cherokee, is that what, I don't
Yeah.
know what street names
No.
those are.
it would be a stub end. That would then be able to be connected to, if Clausen ever finishes that subdivision. That would be the
How far
ultimate
apart are
intent.
those?
It would be the length of one lot, so we may come down and say, okay, we'll pave it past the entrance into that U and simply have the groundwork done, gravel, whatever, for a turnaround.
Well, I was just gonna say, because we need to make sure we look at that, even if it's for emergency services.
Yeah, exactly.
You
It'll
know,
also allow, instead of one entrance into the ball diamonds,
right,
we'll be able to have a circle drive. That way we can go in on the north side, come in, and probably have a one-way connection. So it's gonna improve that, we believe.
So we're just approving the concept right now.
The concept.
Just-
Because I don't want to come down 2 months from now and the council says, well, no, you can't, and they've already completed major development of Upper Ridges too.
I mean, would it behoove us to reach out to Clausen and be like, can you just sell us one lot's worth of this land so we can connect?
I wouldn't be concerned about that part. That can be something we'll demand of Clausen when he comes in, because I've told him verbally in more than one meeting. It's a record that we want a connection when that comes through, period.
But is it cost effective to do this with the whole
Um,
project?
I don't know.
With the
just-
length of time that Clausen's has the ground, since the length of time that they last came in and said he was ready to do something, I'm not gonna hold my breath for that one to ever happen.
Well, it could be another
Right.
20 years before that
Yeah,
happens,
yeah.
but, I mean, yeah.
The main thing is to have the pirate past their whole development, so they'll be on a pirate, and then have that connection in through, to improve our access into the ball diamonds.
No, I agree, I'm just saying,
And
would it
also-
be in our best interest to just reach out to him and say, we understand you're not ready maybe
Sure.
yet to do all of the things that you've talked about. Would you be willing at this time though to,
But that puts us at paying for it rather than having the developer pay for it,
Yeah.
which is what should be doing.
Mhm.
I mean, I get it,
Is what-
I get it.
Because what we're doing with Upper Ridges is we're not doing the standard, you know, we've basically done the most of is 70% tax rebates for 10 years. And there won't be any additional asking from Upper Ridges. Their simple ask was, will you extend pirate? As well as putting in the electric, because right now, HMU.
We haven't been doing
won't do
tax
it.
rebates for residential development, have we?
All of Twin Oaks is
Yeah.
residential.
Oh,
so
boo, never
72.
mind.
Okay,
It's Monday.
so it's
Wow.
matching that conceptual, and I've got cash flows I've gotta do to formalize that. But this is conceptually, yes, provided the economics works, this is what we're willing to do as our portion of the Upper Ridges.
so all the
development,
tip
Upper Ridges
numbers and
3.
everything would have to come in the way we wanted to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because this is not carte blanche that,
No,
no matter what the dollar amount, we're gonna do
Right.
this or anything like that. That's
Nope.
not where I wanna go with this,
no, the
obviously.
developer's aware of that. I said, it's gotta be able to price itself back to us
So,
financially.
so is this
Jim, you're
thing?
not on the council, you
Not
know
on
that,
the
right?
council.
This
I'd
is
like
us-
to- I'm trying to ask you a question.
Yeah, but you're not on the discussion part here, this is
Not
the council
acknowledged.
discussion.
We're not allowed to ask questions?
Not during this part of the meeting, no.
No, you're not,
So this is just a conceptual design portion of
Yes.
this? Okay.
Who's paying for it, the city or the developer?
I think we just need roll
got
call.
line. No questions. Roll call, we ready?
Engel,
Aye.
Reister,
Aye.
Buns,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Wyatt.
Aye.
5-0. Resolution 2574, resolution to approve the concept, so, that was the one we just did, wasn't it?
Yep.
We're on
Item H,
H.
discussion action regarding HMEU recommendation to dispose or discontinue the utility.
So moved.
Heather, could you roll this?
Do we have to move and
No.
second first? Okay.
No.
Then I take it back.
Heather's
Okay,
gonna roll
I'll
us
just,
through what we're.
I'll just summarize briefly, I'll try. After a thorough discussion, the HMEU board in December made a motion to recommend to you all to dispose of or discontinue the utilities. Some of the points that were discussed included the ever-increasing complexities of running a utility, the expertise needed to run a utility, the difficulty in finding that knowledge base over a number of years, as its board has faced over a number of years, the duplication of services. There's individuals that are doing jobs and that's inefficient for city management of the utility and what you all have over here. So, the board undertook a thorough discussion of it, and I think that they thought through it very well and came up with a lot of valid points. And does the concept sadden them? Sure, it does, like it would for most small town utilities that have been in place for a long time, but, and a number of them are here today. But I think that they recognized that they aren't fulfilling it at its highest and best level, and are ready to recommend to you all as a city that it discontinue or be disposed of. In line with that, your option with that recommendation, just to back up further, HMEU itself as an entity doesn't have the authority to call for a vote of the taxpayers to dispose of the utility. That power vests with this council under Chapter 388. So under Chapter 388.2, the proposal of a city to dispose of a utility or discontinue is subject to approval of the voters of the city. You'd have to put that out to a vote at either a regular city election, a general election, or a special election called for that purpose. There are a number of things that have to get done in order to sell a utility, but the code section is very clear on what needs to get done. It lays it all out. We need some time to get that stuff done, like an appraisal needs to get done, et cetera, et cetera. And in general, I think you might have enough time to get it on a ballot for September at this point. And that's kinda it. Whatever questions you all have for me in terms of how they got to that, or if that's what you wanna do, then something tonight would be a motion to instruct myself to proceed with laying out the procedural steps for the city clerk to undertake in order to put the issue on the ballot for disposing of the utility.
I'd entertain a motion to that effect.
I would make that motion that we begin the steps to inquire about getting this on a ballot.
I would second.
Further discussion on that motion?
Questions that I do have in regards to this is some things that we have discussed or that I have read through the minutes of the HMEU board meeting as far as before that time comes. I think there was something mentioned about some 20E agreements, things like that, as far as how or timeframes that works with. Is that something that you will begin working as far as laying that out as well?
That's my understanding. One of their motions as well that night was to authorize the chair to begin discussions with your mayor to enter into 2080 in regards to sharing of services. What we've discussed is that doesn't need to be a complicated 2080 agreement, and Chrissy can work with George and Dan to start looking at what those services can be that are shared, and I can certainly take a peek at whatever agreement you come up with, but yeah, that's my understanding.
Kate, I'd look to that as a second motion following this.
Yep.
this
Okay,
motion.
that's
I mean,
kind
that
of where I
agreement
was
would have to
going
be,
with that.
yeah, that agreement would have to be entered into by both entities.
So that will be on either like the next council meeting,
Right.
since it is not on the agenda tonight,
Yes.
it's something we will look forward
Correct.
to
We
doing.
could have the motion to accept that, authorize pursuit of the 2080, but we would not be approving the 2080 until it gets rolling. Any further discussion? Roll call.
And this is just on the motion for the city attorney to start taking the steps to.
I would call this a motion to authorize myself to provide you with the steps needed for the sale of. And then, as you go along through the process, you might have separate, motions and resolutions that happen after that, such as authorizing an appraisal, et cetera, et cetera.
But that's not the motion now.
So,
Do you want to make that verbiage into your motion, Kate?
That is my motion, is
Okay.
to, like I said, to authorize our attorney to begin the steps, to lay out the steps to dispose of this.
can you lay out, like a projected timeline, or is it too early to do that, or, I mean, just for anybody who might have a question about, okay, well, like, when, if someone's watching this and goes, well, wait,
Right.
like, am I gonna have electricity, or like?
So, right, that's,
We're not turning the lights
I'm
off.
not, we're not turning the lights off. That is a timing issue that has to be done very carefully, obviously. Just because the vote happens to sell it doesn't mean that the sale takes place that day, right? So you then have to negotiate the terms of your sale and on what day you transfer, and there's all kinds of things that would happen before that. So, because in theory, the vote might not pass, right? If, in theory, in September, if the majority of your voters don't want to dispose of this utility and sell it to another entity, then you're back operating it the same way you've been operating it. So you can't really undertake transfer or changing things or any of that stuff until after your vote happens, and then you process timeline, what that happens.
So really, nothing practical can change until after that vote?
Correct.
I mean, in
These
terms-
sharing of services that you've discussed
Yeah.
can start to happen, but when you say nothing practical can happen, the we have to determine the fair market value, and there's another part of the code section that says if you get an offer while you're doing this process, so lots of things can happen once you start this process. We might start getting a knock on the door that says, we wanna buy your utility for X price. We're not gonna know that until we start this. Getting it on the ballot is the first kind of triggering thing to everybody else out there that says, we're interested in selling this.
Got it.
So this motion is just authorizing Heather to start working with Chrissy to lay out the steps as far as what we need to do. Anything specific that needs to be done still technically has to come back to council for approval as far as steps, as far as physically adding it to the ballot, as far as agreeing to the 2080 agreements, as far as anything with that.
Correct, I would want ballot language on as a resolution. I mean, you
Right.
have to approve ballot language.
And that'll be
You
done.
wanna approve what entity you're gonna hire to determine the fair market value,
Right.
so,
Which will be separate
right.
resolution items in
Right.
council.
I take this motion, I mean, for the sake of the public listening, I take this motion as, this council is interested in selling this utility, and as such, start moving forward with that process.
That was my intent
Is
of my
that a fair
motion.
statement of what that means?
That's it.
My question to George is just,
Yeah.
how did we get to this point?
The background is basically HMU board has gotten to the point of, from a competitive standpoint, we don't have the same electrical rates within HMU as what, say, Mid-America does around us. So they're looking at ways to be able to reduce it, one of them being shared services. And from a standpoint of being able to ever get to a point of where, say, a Mid-America is at in rates, we don't see it being able to happen. Butler County agreement having something to do with that.
Not the only factor.
Right.
By certainly not the only factor. Again, it was, this has been, I think they became more familiar with the fact that there's lots of cities and entities that are now outsourcing contracts, for lack of a better phrase. Things like wastewater treatment plant operation is continuing to get more and more complex. You need experts with certifications. Running a utility really isn't any different than that. Not that the individuals on the board of trustees haven't been devoted to their service on that board, and they have been, but there's knowledge and complexities about running a utility that somebody who might teach at PhD level at UNI simply doesn't know. And so because of those ever-increasing complexities and their inability to manage it at the highest level that they think needs to be done, they think they're done.
Great. Roll call.
Alright, Wyatt,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Funds,
Aye.
Reister.
Aye.
Engel.
Aye.
5-0. And do we need a motion at all, Heather, as far as authorization, as far as working towards the 2080 or a sharing agreement?
Yep, you can have a motion to authorize the mayor to begin discussions with a sharing agreement with HMU on services.
On a personal privilege, wouldn't that need to be put on the agenda to vote on?
It's part of the disposal and discontinuation of the utility, so I would consider it part of
Since
that.
it's separate, wouldn't you have to have it on the agenda?
It's under discussion action regarding HMU recommendation is supposed to discontinue, we believe it's.
I
So
make
that's
Heather's
what it is.
motion.
And the motion in December from HMEU was to enter into a 2080 agreement, so that's out there as well.
Second.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Engel.
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Reister.
Aye.
Wyatt.
In addition to that, you're not entering into the 2080, you're authorizing the mayor to begin the discussions with the 2080.
Right, yes.
Formal
Aye.
acceptance will be a separate
Right.
item.
Funds.
Aye.
5-0. Informational items, there's about 5 of them in there. Reminder items, regular scheduled meetings held at council chambers except for electric board and library board. Public Works Committee, February 12th at 7 a.m. Mayor's Task Force that was scheduled for February 18th will be canceled or reset. Personnel Admin Finance Committee meeting, February 24th at 4:45 p.m. Public Safety Committee meeting, February 27th at 4 p.m. Next council meeting is February 10th at 6 p.m. and February 24th at 6 p.m. Motion adjourned? Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Bingo.
Aye. I'm opposed to adjournment, I'm just kidding.
4 to 1.
It's Monday. I